Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mortgage Coach Tuesday call. For over a decade, every single Tuesday at 9 o'clock, we are here to bring leadership, inspiration, and just interview amazing people. It hasn't been a decade since I first interviewed Hal Elrod, but it's been over 5 years. Hal, what do you think it's been, like 6 or 7 years since our first interview?
I can only say too long. Other than that, I don't know.
Well, you have become a pretty big deal, dude. I referred Hal to Todd Duncan. He told his Miracle Morning story from the stage of Sales Mastery, and he blew up in the mortgage space. And guys, he's blown up in a lot of spaces. Everybody in the real estate business knows him. Hal, for anybody that's new to the mortgage industry, because I think anybody that follows my channel, your video is still one of the most viewed, our first interview in our channel. But if someone was new to the mortgage business and they didn't know who Hal Elrod is, what would you say to him today?
Yeah, thank you for that. And thanks for having me, by the way. And thanks to everybody for being here and listening. And, appreciate you guys and gals for showing up. Personally, I'm best known. I wrote this book, The Miracle Morning. That's what most people know me for. I wrote it out of kind of desperation in 2008. The economy crashed. If you're in real estate, you're very well aware of that if you're around during that time. But housing market for sure crashed as well. And at that time, I lost over half of my clients. I was a coach. I coached salespeople. And that essentially sent me into this downward depression. I lost over half my income. I lost my house, all these things. And a series of events led me to create this daily morning ritual. And it changed my life in a matter of months. And we'll probably go into this today. But here's what's interesting is the economy kept getting worse and I doubled my income. So for 6 months, I had this downward spiral into financial ruin. I started doing this morning practice, and within 2 months, I more than doubled my income, even though the economy kept getting worse. I think that's really relevant right now, as we don't know what the future of the economy holds with COVID and all of those things. But so for me, I'm on this mission to elevate consciousness and help people to really take control of yourself and optimize your inner world so that you can create everything you want for your life, both internally and externally. And I do that as an author and a speaker. Most importantly, I do it as a dad. My daughter's 11. My son is 7. My wife, I won't tell you her age, but she, serving them first and foremost. And after they're taken care of, doing stuff like this to try to reach as many people in the world as I possibly can.
I love that opening. I can't remember if it was Isaac Stedman who first introduced me to you or Dan Keller. I know they both told me about you and they're like, you need to meet this dude. And the thing that I held on to, and I was like, when I met you, I was really excited, was you were one of the top sales guys with Cutco Knives. So when I was new in the mortgage business and I was making some money, but not that much money, I took a meeting to get a pitch for a Cutco knife and I never knew what it was. And I literally thought that was the best sales pitch I'd ever been given. I didn't have enough money to buy all the knives, but I, put it on credit and I bought the whole thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, this guy was one of the best sales guys in the history of Cutco Knives. I need to meet him. So weren't you back in the day, the number one sales guy for Cutco?
Yeah, so I was 19 and I had just finished my first year of college and I was pursuing my dream job, which is to be a radio DJ. I had a radio show when I was 15 years old in high school and then didn't have one, for 4 years. And then I got a gig on a radio station and was the new guy DJing midnight to 6 a.m. But I'm living the dream. My buddies would call in. I'm giving shout outs to my friends on dates so they look cool in front of their dates. And one of my friends convinced me to go in for an interview with Cutco. And I'm like, dude, I'm a DJ. I'm not a sales guy. And long story short, I ended up giving it a shot. And in the first 10 days, I broke the company record. It's called the Fast Start record, where I sold more Cutco in my first 10 days than just about anybody in the company had. And that was on hard work. I did 62 sales presentations in 90 minutes apiece, 62 90-minute sales presentations in those first 10 days. And so it wasn't like I was some, phenom in terms of being special. I just decided to work really, really hard. And and then I did that for a year and a half. And a year and a half into the career, I was driving home after giving a speech at a Cutco sales conference, and my car was hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 miles an hour. And I bounced off the drunk driver. The car behind me hit me in the door at 70 miles an hour. and I broke 11 bones. I began losing a lot of blood, and that night I bled to death. I was dead for 6 minutes, in a coma for 6 days, and woke up from a coma to be told I would never walk again. And that was kind of my first opportunity, if you will, to really face an extreme adversity and decide how I was going to respond. And I think that's so universal for all of us, right? Like, adversity is inevitable, right? Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And I decided during that time, if the doctors are right and I never walk again, I made a conscious decision. I said, I'm going to be the happiest, most grateful person that you've ever seen in a wheelchair. Because if I'm in a wheelchair either way, I'm not going to let my circumstances determine my emotional well-being. I'm not going to let my outer world determine my inner world. And the doctors thought I was in denial because I was so happy, and I was all grateful and happy, and they're like, what's wrong with this kid? Like, we're telling him he's never going to walk again, and he's got 11 broken bones and his body is scarred, and I'm like, hey, like, that will not determine whether or not I'm smiling. Like, I can be, that's just life. Like, we always here's a way to look at it, Dave, that I think is really helpful. At least it has been for me. In life, we all have 2 pages to focus on, right? If you look at my hands right now, you imagine one page called the positive page, and it lists all the things that we have to feel good about, to be grateful for. And then the other page is the painful page, and it lists all the things for our entire lives, all the trauma, all the failures, all of our own faults, everything, right? And most people that complain about life go, well, I'm not negative, I'm just realistic. And they always have something to point to as to why they're upset or unhappy or stressed out. And what I've realized is it's simply a matter of which page we spend most of our time focused on. Everybody has both pages. You've got a page that if you focus on a painful page, man, you got a ton of stuff. I got a ton of stuff that we could be miserable and depressed and be suffering from anxiety. And especially with the world being so out of control, there's more right now to be stressed about than probably ever in history, right? But we also have this positive page, this proactive page, this page that lists everything we have to be grateful for, all of our strengths, all of our friends and family, and it lists every opportunity for the future, which is unlimited. And the quality of your life and my life at any given moment has very little to do with what's going on around you, but it's all about what's going on inside of you. Which page are you focused on? And when I had the car accident, I was like, I'm going to focus on the positive page. I'm alive. I have a family. I have, if I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, so what? I'm in a wheelchair. Like, that's not going to determine the quality of my life. And I think for all of us, whatever you're dealing with right now, in fact, I would ask you, we'll use the wheelchair analogy, right? Like, what's your wheelchair? What's that circumstance in your life that you are giving permission to cause you stress and anxiety and fear and pain? And by the end of today, my goal, in fact, the title of today, right, is the one thing you have control over. And here's what it is. It's your internal state. That's it, right? It's your internal state. You can't control the outer world, but you're damn right, we can control the inner world. And it's important to have daily practices that you execute every day, things you do every day that optimize your inner world so that you can show up and be at your best to everything you do. You nurture your inner world every morning so that you show up as the parent that your kids deserve, the leader that your team deserves, the human that society deserves, right? And for me, that's what my miracle morning has been for me, is enabling me to start every day in that peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state so that I can focus on the positive page, so that I can be at peace with the painful page, and that I can actually focus my energy on what's in my control and be at peace with everything else.
Love, love, love that. So this is an interactive call. This is live. Many of you are watching this live in our Facebook group, or you're watching it live in Zoom. Maybe you're watching it recorded from our YouTube channel, but I want you to pause in just a minute. I want to give you guys something to do to give this call and this session the most value to you as possible. So last week I was releasing my youngest son to the wild in Syracuse. And so not only is there a lot to be stressful about, taking your kid to college during COVID, he's my last kid. I love having my kid live in my home. So while I'm excited about his future, I'm also bummed about not having my kid at home. So I have found myself having to really be intentional around celebrating the positive things. Don't look back at mistakes I made as a parent, things I wish I would have taught him before he left. I wish I would have, whatever. You know, we all have these wishes. I also want everybody to think about last week's call. When I was at Syracuse, Josh Meadows stepped up and he led a call called Frantic to Focused, because we are in a refi tidal wave. You're in the mortgage business, you're killing it. You got a lot of loans, you know, there's a refi tidal wave going on. And your biggest challenge is going from I'm frantic to I'm focused, to I'm burning out my team, to I'm helping my team. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop right now, and I want you to write down what is, as Hal said, what is your wheelchair? Like mine personally is just being a super fired up empty nester. Like I'm not there. You know, it's been a couple days. I had my first dinner last night with my wife without my son under this roof. And I'm going to make that my wheelchair. If you are killing it and you have a team and you're burning your team out, maybe that's your wheelchair. But whatever it is, I want you to just pause real quick, write it down. If you're watching this live, I want you to just to riff a few things. It's okay to multitask. Write it down. What is your wheelchair? And so Hal, let's rip. You already called out what is the one thing, but let's spend about 30 minutes getting value and insight from you. And then guys, I have some surprise questions in the last 20 minutes of this call that I think will add a lot of value. So you're going to get 30 minutes of the one thing from Hal, and then we're going to do 10 minutes, 15 minutes of some surprise questions that I think will be very helpful to you guys. So Hal, rock it out. Help us overcome that one thing.
Absolutely. So 2008, the United States economy began to crash. And I began to crash with it. And not at first. At first, I'm what you'd call the eternal optimist. Many of you watching probably are, right? Where like, I just find the positive in everything, or at least I try.
Obnoxiously optimistic.
Yeah, obnoxiously. Yeah, my wife is like, just listen to me complain for a while and stop trying to fix everything, right? But for me in 2008, you know, I've learned being an optimist that there is a fine line between optimism and delusion, right? And like in 2008, everybody's worried about the economy. And I'm going, I create my own economy. Like I take responsibility for my life and blah, blah, blah. Well, it's a real thing when, you know, my clients they weren't be able to pay the bills and they couldn't pay me for coaching. And I lost over half my clients, over half of my income. And it was a 6-month downward spiral. I canceled my gym membership. Because I didn't have any money. I started living on credit cards. I was $52,000. I went from being a Dave Ramsey debt-free student paid off every month to 6 months later, I had $52,000 on my credit card, almost 10 grand a month, just to put groceries and gas and pay the bills. And I got really depressed for the first time in my life. And it was a very circumstantial depression, right? It wasn't clinical. Like I'm scared. Like nothing in my life is everything's getting worse. And a conversation with a good friend of mine, John Berghoff, I said, John, what do I do? Like, I need help. I don't know what to do. I can't pay the bills. My house is going to foreclosure. And he said, are you exercising every day? And I said, what the hell does that have to do with anything I just told you? Like, no, I'm not exercising every day. Cancel the gym membership, man. I'm out of shape. He said, if you're not putting yourself in a peak physical state every day, if you're not going for, you know, getting some oxygen and blood to your brain, he said, you're not going to be thinking clearer. You're not going to be able to have the motivation, the energy that you need to make better decisions. He said, and to change your situation. He said, if I were you, I would go for a walk, a jog, a run every morning and listen to a self-help audio. Listen to an audiobook on building your business, on getting clients, on whatever area of your life you need to improve. And I said, John, I hate running. What else can I do? And he said, what do you hate worse, running or your circumstances? I went, okay, all right, touche, I'll go for a run. And the next morning I went for a run and I heard a quote, and I want to share this with you. I think this is worth writing down. This quote changed my life faster than I ever thought possible. Jim Rohn said, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development, or rarely. You could say your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development, because success is something you attract by the person that you become. And in that moment it was like a slap in the face. I go, wait a minute, I'm not dedicating time every day to my personal development. Therefore, I'm not becoming the person that I need to be to create the success I want. And that can happen for one of two reasons. For me, I was in desperation mode. I was waking up, trying to figure out how to make some money, get some clients, turn my situation around. That's one reason that you might put personal development to the side, is because things aren't going well and you're in scarcity mode and you feel like you've got to figure it out. Or what you might be dealing with right now is the other reason that personal development gets put to the side, which is things are going so well, you got more business than you could do. And so you feel like, well, I don't need to grow right now. I'm just going to collect the cash. I'm just going to take advantage of this. You can do both. For me, that day I went on a scale of 1 to 10. This is how I quantify this. On a scale of 1 to 10, if you're measuring success in every area of your life, I'm not just talking about your business. I'm talking about your marriage. I'm talking about your health. I'm talking about your happiness, your mental and emotional well-being. On a scale of 1 to 10, if we're measuring success in every area of life, one thing human beings have in common is we all want level 10 success. We want to be as happy and healthy as we can possibly be. We want to be as wealthy as we can possibly be. We want to thrive in every area. So we want level 10 success. At that time, I realized my level of personal development was like at a 2, maybe a 3 or a 4. Like, that's the disconnect, I believe, for most of our society. And so from that day on, I decided I am going to commit to create the most extraordinarily effective personal development routine in the history of humanity, so that I can become a level 10 person, not just in business, but I want to be a level 10 dad and a level 10 husband. I want to be level 10 in every area of my life. And I went home and I just started Googling, what are the best personal development practices for CEOs, millionaires and billionaires, champions, Olympians, you name it. And I was looking for the one practice that would change my life, and I couldn't narrow it down to one. I had a list of 6. For example, I found an article called, I believe it was Fortune 500 CEOs who swear by meditation. And I went, wait a minute, I thought of meditation as like a woo-woo practice for, a spiritual practice, which that's great. But I thought, I didn't think about it as a CEO would attribute their success to meditation. Well, I read that article and I realized, it creates clarity. You end up having your best ideas when you spend that time in silence every day. And so I decided I've got to meditate. Then I saw an interview with Will Smith where he talked about affirmations, that was the most effective practice of his life, was affirmations. And I'll paraphrase what he said, but he said, they asked him, how'd you become one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood, Will? You went from being an unknown to a rapper, Fresh Prince, to an actor, to one of the highest paid actors. How'd you do that? He said, when I was 15 years old, I learned about the concept of affirmations. And he explained affirmations different than I had heard them. I had always heard them in this cheesy, goofy way, like, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm amazing, I'm a champion, I can do anything, right? Life's great. Like, he said, no. I got specific. He said, I wrote affirmations that clarified what I was committed to in my life, the things that I wanted to in my life. I committed to those things in writing, and then I identified, who do I need to be and what do I need to do to ensure that those outcomes become my reality. He said, I wrote it down. I read it every single day to program my subconscious mind. He said, and then I simply lived in alignment with what I affirmed every day. And what do you know? Eventually, he said, I became that person and I created that reality for myself. And when I saw that, I go, dude, I've never heard affirmations taught in that results-oriented, actionable, practical way. But I was like, I got to do affirmations. And there were totals of 6 practices. It was meditation, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, journaling, and I was kind of overwhelmed. And then I had an epiphany. I went, wait a minute. What if I did all of these? What if instead of picking 1 or 2, what if I woke up an hour earlier tomorrow, like I'm going to invite all of you to do, what if I woke up an hour earlier tomorrow and I did the 6 most timeless, proven personal development practices in the history of humanity that the world's most successful people in all walks of life, from professional sports to business, to philanthropy, you name it, that they all swore by. And the next morning I woke up an hour early. Before I fell asleep, I Googled how to meditate, how to do affirmation. I didn't know how to do it. It was all new to me, how to do visualization. And I woke up the next morning and I sucked at all of them, right? Like I tried to meditate, couldn't clear my mind. affirmations, still felt kind of phony and goofy because I was really depressed at that point. I was really struggling. Right, visualization, I didn't get it. So I sucked at all 6 practices, but 1 hour later, I felt incredible. Now keep in mind, this is 2008. I'm 52 grand in credit card debt and getting worse every month. My house is in the middle of foreclosure from the bank. My body fat percentage had tripled in the last 6 months. So on the first day I did this morning ritual, which it didn't have a name, it wasn't called the Miracle Morning, it wasn't a book idea. It was my desperate attempt to take my life to the levels that I knew that I deserved, that I wanted for my life, that I was ready for. And essentially, even after 1 hour of what you might call a mediocre morning, right? Like I wasn't good at this stuff. I felt incredible and I felt optimistic and hopeful. And for the first time in 6 months, I went, if I do this every day, if I start every day feeling this clear and focused and centered, if I start every day with this much energy and confidence and motivation, it's only a matter of time before my outer world reflects the way my inner world is now emerging. And I'll be honest with you, I was thinking this would be 6 to 12 months that I could turn my life around. It was less than 2 months that I more than doubled my income. Now keep in mind, the economy continued to get worse, but as I got better, my income got better, right? I went from being in the worst shape of my life physically, having never run outside of high school PE class when you had to run the mile, which I hated running. I decided to commit to a 52-mile ultra marathon for charity and announce it publicly so I would look like a total ass if I didn't follow through and do it, right? It was for charity. I needed some accountability. So within 2 months, I'm running 20 miles a week, right? And my depression went away. And I went to my wife and I said, sweetheart, the last 2 months, this morning routine has changed everything. I am the happiest I've ever been. I am the healthiest I've ever been. I'm the most confident I've ever been. And we're earning the most money we've ever earned before simultaneously. Not only did I didn't have to sacrifice one for the other, I'm going level 10 in every single area. And our relationship's great. I said, this morning routine, it feels like a freaking miracle how fast it's changed every part of my life. And she goes, it's your miracle morning. And I go, yeah, I like that, miracle morning. And I started writing my schedule, miracle morning every day. A couple weeks later, one of my coaching clients asked if I had a morning ritual, and I'm chomping at the bit. I go, oh my God, I've never have in my life. I do now. I wasn't a morning person 2 weeks ago. Now, let me tell you what I'm doing. And she kind of goes, I'm not a morning person though. Do you think I can do it? And I gave her some tips, which I'll see if I can get squeezed in today on how to beat the snooze button. And she came back to our next week's call. She goes, Hal, I am running again. I just read a self-help book this week. I just had the best week in my sales career. I'm on fire, all because of that miracle morning thing that you taught me. And then I went, well, I have to teach all my clients. Taught it to all my clients. Most of them said, I'm not a morning person, but I'll try it. Came back a week later and go, oh my God, it was the same thing. And that's when the light bulb went off. And I went, wait a minute. If this miracle morning changed my life in 2 months, and I wasn't a morning person, if it changed all of my clients' lives, and most of them weren't morning people, this could change the world. And I committed, I have a responsibility to humanity to write this in the form of a book. And writing's a pain in the ass for me. It took me 3 years, but 3 years later, the Miracle Morning published on 12/12/12, December 12, 2012. And it took me a year and a half of promoting the hell out of it because I believed in it. I was making a few $100 a week. I wasn't getting paid for it, or not much. I just believed in it. And then it took off. And now we just surpassed 2.5 million copies sold, mostly word of mouth. And it's transformed people's lives in incredible ways. And I'll share one last story, and then I'm going to get into the tactics here, which I got some slides for you. Robert Kiyosaki, right? If you're in the real estate industry, you most likely know Robert Kiyosaki. If you don't, he wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's one of the best-selling, if not the best-selling financial book of all time. It sold 26 million copies, I think. Robert and I spoke at an event together, and I gave him a copy of The Miracle Morning, and I thought, he'll never read it. This guy's worth like $80 million. he's not going to read my little self-help book, right? I get an email from his assistant like 3 weeks later. She said, Robert has read your book 3 times. What? And he wants to have you on Rich Dad Radio. And he brought me on Rich Dad Radio on his show. And he advocated for the Miracle Morning like I couldn't believe. And he said something at the end of the interview. I'm about to teach you guys the 6 practices of the Miracle Morning, which are known as the savers: silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And at the end of the interview, he summed it up better than I ever did. He said, Hal, these are the 6 most, what did he say? He said, these are the 6 most proven ancient wisdom practices. And he said, every successful person on the planet swears by at least one of these practices and attributes their success to at least one of them. He said, but I had never heard of anyone that practiced all 6 of them, maybe 2 or 3 at the most, but never all 6. And he said, when you practice all 6, I truly believe you named your book correctly, because you create and experience miracles in your life, things you could not have imagined would improve in ways you never imagined they would improve. And so I'm going to teach you guys these 6 practices. Before I do, Dave, anything to ask or share or anything I messed up so far?
Well, you absolutely have not messed up anything. And I do want to connect this to the heart and the mind of today's mortgage professional, because if you're a mortgage professional, financial issues are probably not your issues. I mean, you're either killing it and making more money than you ever thought you would, or you're making a lot of money. So money is probably not the issue, but are you creating clients for life? Are you, even though you may not have a balance of the hours that you spend at home, are you doing your best with that? Are you frantic? Are you focused? So I do want to remind folks, I want to know, what is your wheelchair? And if you came in late and you don't know what that metaphor means, what is the one thing that you need to improve? I shared transparently, I became an empty nester yesterday, released my son into the wild of college, and I need to move on. I need to just be pumped and excited. And so I'm focusing on that. I'm working on that. And Hal, I've interviewed you multiple times. I've read your book multiple times. I'm super familiar with the Miracle Morning and the formula. But I mean, it's just a great reminder. I mean, just hearing you talk, I thought about, I'm not doing affirmations. And when I do affirmations, it's more like I have like a little, in my mobile app, I have a photo place where I saved a lot of positive feedback. And I thumb through that every morning. And I've been thinking, oh, that's my affirmation. But you know what? I haven't written down, who am I? And I did that earlier, but I haven't done that in a long time. So I got a reminder just now, Dave, I need to time block some time, create some new empty nester affirmations, and I need to study that. So if you've heard Hal before, I hope you're getting value. So my ask to everybody in this community, if you're listening to the recording, if you're on live, what's your wheelchair? What's your one thing? Hal and I want to know. It will not only make this call, especially as we close it out, more valuable, the next calls that I do. Remember, guys, I'm interviewing top people every Tuesday. So the more I know about what your biggest pain is, what your biggest obstacle is, and what your biggest goal is, the more I can bring value on Tuesdays and Fridays. So guys, give us some comments. Hal, rock it out tactically. Give me 10 minutes at the end, because I do have some questions that I'm just curious about. And I know that loan officers and realtors are going to be curious. So give me 10 to 15 minutes at the end. But let's get tactical, and community, do your part. Share some of your big things.
You got it, brother. Yeah, thank you, Dave, for that. They say good is the enemy of great. You may have heard that before, and that's what often happens for us in terms of when money is good, everything else when money's coming in, it can often trick us into thinking, hey, things are good, like I'm good. And we tend to often not focus on the other aspects of life. And I'll tell you, one of my rules is I'm not allowed to read a business book in the morning until I've read a parenting or a marriage book, right? And that helps me remind myself my number one priority is always my family and not my business. And 3 years ago, I got cancer. Before that, I was a workaholic. And that taught me that I was putting off, time with family for time to work. And while, yes, there's a time and a place to do that, it never excuses, right, that the number one priority are the people in our life that mean the most to us. And so that's something that the Miracle Morning helps me stay present to my highest priorities. Here are the 6 practices. These are the savers. And I love this acronym, by the way, because it literally, these are the 6 practices that will save you from missing out on the life that you deserve to live. And again, it's not just business. It's not just your money and your finances. It's being level 10 in your health, in your happiness. And sometimes when business is going great, right, that's the easiest time for the other areas of life to fall to the wayside. It's also a time where you still need to be growing so that, like Dave said, get clients for life. Like if you're just churning and burning clients because it's easy, you should be reading a book right now on how to develop and sustain quality relationships with your clients. And I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. If one comes to me, I'll share it, right? But how are you? Oh, actually, I have one for you. Giftology. I just read that by John Ruhlin. If you haven't read Giftology, you have to read Giftology. Giftology is a book on how you develop long-term relationships and trust and reciprocity with your clients through the art of effective gift giving. And as loan officers, right, if you give a closing gift, or if you're in the real estate industry doing a closing gift, I think closing gifts sucks. You give a gift card to Home Depot, great. They're not going to remember that. Right? So there's an art to gift giving. So there's a great book if you want to develop long-term relationships with your clients, so that all these clients that are coming in, when the market slows, and markets go in cycles, that's a fact, right? When the market slows, which we don't know how far off that's going to be, it could be months or years, right? But did you nurture, like go over and above and do something, put something in the hands of your clients that they're going to use every day and they're going to remember you by, so that when it's time for the next refi or when it's time to ask for referrals, right? They love you. You're top of mind to them all the time. So get that book, Giftology. All right, into the savers. The first is silence. Silence is meditation and or your prayer time. So instead of starting your day by checking your phone or your email, which spikes your cortisol levels, right? I'm not allowed to turn my phone on until my Miracle Morning is done. Start your day in peaceful, purposeful silence. If you've never meditated before, start with a meditation app like Headspace or Calm. Just go to the App Store, type meditation, or go to YouTube and type in guided meditation, and you can get real specific. Guided meditation to make money, guided meditation for marriage, guided meditation for stress or depression or anxiety or happiness or whatever. There are guided meditations for everything you need. But remember that article that turned me on to meditation. The article was, right, Fortune 500 CEOs who swear by meditation. These are people that are leading organizations that have a crazy workload, right? And they said meditation was the key to a large part of their success. The second of the savers.
Time out.
Yeah.
Mortgage coach community. I personally use Headspace. I've played with a few of the others. If you are meditating and you are using an app, let us know what you're using. Put it down below in comments, whether you're watching the recording or live. What are you using to meditate? And if you don't believe in meditation, you're like, nah, don't need it. I'm curious to know who doesn't believe in meditation. Next one, Hal.
I love it. All right, so A for affirmations. Affirmations are, in my opinion, the most important and effective aspect of personal development. I'll explain why. And they're the most misunderstood. So there's one of two problems with affirmations the way that we've been taught. Number one, we're taught to lie to ourselves. If you want to be happy, just tell yourself, I am happy. I am happy. Or I am healthy. We're taught that any words that follow I am are the most powerful words in the human language. Well, here's the problem. If I am is followed by something that you don't see as true, that you think is false or a lie, right? So if you say, I am happy, but you've woken up depressed for the last 6 months, then when you say, I am blank, something that is untrue, your subconscious fights it, right? They go, no, you're not, right? If you go, I am a millionaire, trying to trick yourself into believing it, and you're not a millionaire, your subconscious calls you out on that. So lying to yourself is never the optimum strategy because the truth will always prevail. So that's the first problem with affirmations. We're taught to try to trick ourselves into believing something that's not true. The second problem with affirmations is we're taught to use them in this flowery, passive language that promises a magical result that makes us feel good in the moment, but is ultimately detrimental to actually producing that result. So for example, you may have heard this affirmation or something like it. I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance, right? No, it doesn't. That's not how money works. You have to actually produce value for the marketplace, market that value, you'll be reciprocated with money. But it doesn't magically flow to you. You don't just make a vision board and sit back and wait for it to all come true. So those are the two problems with affirmations, is that lying to yourself is never the optimum strategy. And number two, you can't just promise a magical result and expect it to show up without you actually doing the things that will produce the result. I'm going to give you 3 steps right now to create affirmations that are practical and that are results oriented. Because for me, if I'm affirming something around my finances, I want to see my bank account balance grow. If I'm affirming that I'm losing weight, I want to see that, right? I want to see results, not just feel good while I do the affirmation. Number 1, what are you committed to? So the step number 1 to creating affirmations that produce results is don't affirm what you want. We don't get what we want. I want to win the lottery. I want whatever. We get what we're committed to. So number 1, what are you committed to? Number 2, why is it deeply meaningful to you? Why is it deeply meaningful? Why is it crucial? Why is it a non-negotiable? You are committed no matter what. And number 3, what specific actions will you take and when? What specific actions will you take and when? So what are you committed to? So I am committed to blank, right? What are you committed to? Reinforce that in your subconscious, because you don't get what you want, you get what you're committed to, and there is always a way when you're committed. So the science behind this, right, is the reinforcement of the mindset and the commitment that you need. So what are you committed to? Why is that meaningful to you? Why is it crucial? Why is it a non-negotiable? And then number 3, what specifically will you do and when? And just so you know, I encourage you to create affirmations for every area of your life. I have that affirmation formula for my business, for my mission in life, for my marriage, for my relationship with my kids, right? As a parent, every area of my life, for my health, for my fitness, for my finances. I follow that formula for every single area, and I have a page printed out, and I edit it and change it all the time, because as I learn and grow and evolve, my affirmations also are edited, they grow, and they evolve as well. Yes.
So before we get to the next one, so it looks like Headspace is winning in the mortgage coach community. Calm is coming in second. And I love to hear, I never thought of it, but listening to a meditation playlist on Spotify. So mortgage coach community, great job. Keep sharing your favorite meditation app. And then because Hal framed affirmations is the number 1 most important thing, I really want you guys to do this one. Share, as a mortgage professional, what's your most important affirmation? So if you have an affirmation, and as a mortgage professional, you've got something, you think it's gold, share it, whether it's a recording, whether it's live. If you want to take a picture, like you heard Hal, I've got these list of affirmations. If you're a mortgage person and you have a list and you want to take a picture and share it, would love to see some affirmations from you guys. Keep it rocking, Hal.
Awesome. Yeah, and I want to say this about affirmations. I just gave you that 3-part formula. An affirmation is in its simplest form is a reminder. That's it, right? So when I read something and I read a quote and I go, oh my God, I need to remember that. I need to embody that. I need to live that. I will add it to my affirmations. I have affirmations that are digital. They're all on my computer, so I can always edit them and add to them. I have them in my phone as well. They sync up, right? So I use Google Keep, by the way, in my phone for my affirmations. So, but yeah, so the point is, like, I have an affirmation that says, I am just as capable, worthy, and deserving of everything I want in my life as any other person on earth. And I had that really got me through some times where I had some self-doubt. I have an affirmation that says, every challenge I face is an opportunity for me to learn, grow, and become better than I've ever been before, right? So that formula I gave you, what you're committed to, why it's meaningful to you, and which actions you need to take and when, that's the foundational formula for all of my affirmations. But I expand beyond that with different thoughts and phrases and quotes, lessons that I need to remember and live.
Hal, what did you say? You had them on Google what?
Google Keep is the app I use on my phone.
Oh, so the Google Notes.
what I like about it is it allows you to put a picture in with each affirmation. So I'll hold it up to the screen. So like, what does that say? My mission is greater than my fear. That first one, there's one for my wife and I, one, it's a breakthrough I had, one for my kids, and they go on and on and on and on and on. I have way too many affirmations, like way too many affirmations.
No, you don't have too many. Guys, I use Evernote. So there's another question, guys. If you have affirmations and you use affirmations, how do you get to them? Is it paper? Is it Google Keep? Is it Evernotes? How are you storing them, remembering them, and studying them? Next one now. And within 9 minutes, let's get through these so I can get my surprise questions in.
You got it. The V is for visualization. And you don't have to look any further than the world's greatest athletes swear by visualization. It's the way that they mentally and emotionally rehearse a perfect performance. When it's game time, they've already gone there in their mind, in their body, and in their emotions. I'm going to teach you real quick. The big problem with visualization is we're taught to visualize the end result, and that is it. That, in my opinion, is half of the visualization equation, and it's the least effective half, the least important half. Here's what I mean. When you visualize the end result, when I was training for an ultra marathon, I visualized the crossing the finish line. The benefit of that is you start to, it increases your desire. You start to believe it because you see it, you feel it. That's powerful. But the problem is if you leave it at that, you trick your subconscious into thinking that that result is as good as done with or without your effort. And that's just not true. The most important part of visualization is rehearsing the activity that you have to do today to create that result in the long run. So for example, when I was training for the ultra marathon, I would visualize crossing the finish line for about a minute, maybe two. I would see it, I would feel it, I would be excited about it, so that I wanted that to be a reality. But the most important part of visualization I'd spend a few minutes on was I'd visualize my alarm on my phone going off at 7 a.m., which is when I committed to run. I would then visualize myself going into my bedroom closet, putting on my running clothes. I'd literally see the movie and I would smile. I'd start to think excited thoughts. I'd visualize myself heading out the living room, out the front door, and I'd always visualize opening the door and smiling and looking at the pavement, looking at the sidewalk. And then I would say things like, this is gonna be the best run of my life. I'm growing, I'm improving, I'm expanding my capacity. And I would think that as I visualized going out on that run, and I would create this optimum emotional experience. Here's the power in that. When the alarm went off my phone at 7 a.m., I didn't have to talk myself into it. I didn't have to have any, there was no decision fatigue. I had already gone there in the morning. So when it was 7 a.m. on my phone, I stood up without even thinking about it. I walked in my closet, I got dressed, headed out the front door, smiled, looked at the sidewalk, was flooded with those positive emotions that I created in the morning, and went out on that run. So whatever your biggest goals and dreams and outcomes that you're committed to in your life, in every area of your life, use that visualization to put yourself in that peak mental and emotional state, rehearse it in the morning, so that when it's actually game time, when it's time to pick up the phone and call those prospects, when it's time to go for that run, when it's time to engage with your family, whatever it is, you've already rehearsed it in an optimal emotional state so that it becomes automated and you execute flawlessly because of the rehearsal that you did with visualization in the morning. The E in Sabres is for exercise. I'm not saying you need to go to the gym in the morning, but you do need to get blood and oxygen to your brain first thing in the morning. Again, often when money's going well, it creates that illusion that everything's so good, there's nothing to worry about. And we often put our health on the back burner. We start, eating on the go. We don't take as much time for meal prep and making sure we're eating healthy. We skip exercise. Exercising first thing in the morning is crucial to waking your body up. In fact, I interviewed Robin Sharma for the Miracle Morning documentary, and he said the benefits of exercising in the morning can last as much as 13 hours after the exercise. You have more mental clarity, you have more discipline, and you have more energy. And so again, you can still, if you go to the gym in the afternoon or evening, that's fine, but make sure you get at least 10 minutes in the morning. For me, I just go for a 10-minute bike ride every morning. While I'm on the bike ride, I'm breathing fresh air. I'm getting sunshine. I'm thinking how grateful I am to be alive. I'm experiencing the nature. Our neighborhood's gorgeous with all these big trees, right? And I'm getting that exercise, burning those legs, right? Getting all these benefits for 10 minutes in the morning. So make sure you get a little bit of exercise in the morning, part of your miracle morning. The next is reading. We're all one book away from learning any strategy we need to learn to radically transform our lives. And, I mentioned a couple things. Number one, I always read a parenting and or a marriage book first thing before I read a business book. It's a little rule I have. I have to earn the right to read a business book by reading a parenting book. Right now I'm reading Hold On to Your Kids, which is phenomenal. And then for me personally, I'm reading Loving What Is. And then for my business, I'm reading a book called The Membership Economy. So I read 3 books usually, one for my family, one for myself, one for my business. So that's my reading right now. And then last but not least is scribing. Scribing is a fancy word for writing, but the J wouldn't fit at the end of the acronym for journaling. So we went with scribing. Scribing, there's magic when you put pen to paper. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time. Again, the whole Miracle Morning, most people do 30 to 60 minutes. There's a chapter in the book on as little as 6 minutes. But every morning, I do one of 2 forms of journaling. I either use my phone. I use an app called the 5-Minute Journal, where you write down what you're grateful for. You clarify your highest priorities for the day. And you can put a picture in of, what happened yesterday that was a high point moment for you, which I do that almost every day. And I also use a long form journal, just a lined journal. And if I ever wake up and I'm wrestling with a challenge or a problem or a stress, I'll always start out with a question. What am I worried about today? Or what am I thinking about today? Or what am I stressed about today? Or what's the challenge in my life right now? And I just basically, it's like self-coaching, self-therapy. And by the end of the page, within 5 or 10 minutes, I always resolve the challenge. It's a technique that I learned from a friend. It's incredible. So to go back to what Robert Kiyosaki said, right? If you do any one of these 6 practices, any one of the savers, silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, any one of those has been proven for centuries to change your life, to allow you to be at your best. But when you do all 6 of them, it's a game changer. And so the Miracle Morning 30-Day Challenge, I'm inviting all of you to take and join the millions of people around the world that have done this, that have changed so many areas of their life, from losing a lot of weight to, overcoming a depression to saving their marriage. Real simple. Number 1, wake up 30 minutes earlier. Can you do an hour? Yeah, but start simple, 30 minutes earlier. Number 2, do 1 or more of the savers. You don't have to do all 6 of the Miracle Morning. In fact, if you've never read the book, a lot of people just do the R for reading, right? They wake up 30 minutes earlier and they start reading the book. And when they get to the chapter on silence, they incorporate that in their Miracle Morning. Then they get to the chapter on affirmations and they incorporate that, right? It's not an all or nothing thing, but start every day by putting yourself in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state. And the Miracle Morning is not just about you getting everything that you want out of life. It's about you putting yourself in that state so you can show up and be the dad or the mom, right? The parent that your kids deserve, to be the leader that your team deserves, to be the human that our society deserves. This to me is about elevating our own consciousness so that we can elevate the consciousness of humanity and literally transform the world, one that is, in my opinion, far too divided right now. We need to realize that we're all part of the human family. And I don't care if you're red or blue or Democrat or Republican, right? We're all on the same team. And so for me in the morning, nurturing my personal abilities allows me to show up in the world with love, compassion, clarity, and go kick ass for me, my family, those that I love, and those that I lead. And I wish nothing less for you because you deserve it.
It would be like standing ovation now. So dude, you rocked it. You crushed it. I'm not going to ask my question because I have one question before the question, but For anyone who wants to know, what is the question, Dave? Hal has built a world-class community. He has, and I'll ask you in a minute, how many people are in his Facebook group? How many people, we heard 2 million have read his book, but he's built his community. And if you're a mortgage or real estate professional, you need to build a community. I've built a community, the Mortgage Coach community. We've got a Facebook group, we've got a YouTube channel, and I'm proud of it. It gives me energy and it creates value. But if you're a loan officer, you need to build a community. You need to become, as Gary Vee says, the digital mayor of something. So I'm going to ask him some questions that if he was a loan officer, if he was a realtor, or if he was giving advice to a family member that was getting in that space, how he would build community. So Hal, that's going to be the question coming in a minute. Before I do that, how big is your community? How many people in the Facebook group? What kind of engagement? You know, when I ask how big is your community, how do you answer that?
So the global Miracle Morning community, I look at, the 2.5 million people that have read the book are part of the community. We've had just under 1 million people subscribe to my email list. So we're at like 984,000 or something like that. And then the Miracle Morning community is the Facebook group, which I invite all of you to join. You see people that have been doing it for 10 years and up to just starting today. But it's just surpassed 270,000 members from over 100 countries in the Miracle Morning community Facebook group. And then each country has their own Facebook group. So the Brazilian group has like 60,000 members, and France has 40,000. And so there's all these other groups. So there's all these global communities. But so there's not an easy answer to that question, but that's a multi.
It's big. And then I heard you have a movie coming out. I mean, do you have a movie coming?
Yeah, the Miracle Morning movie comes out on 12/12/2020, the 8-year anniversary of the book. And it's a documentary. The subtitle is Changing Millions of Lives One Morning at a Time. And it's designed to introduce people that don't read into the Miracle Morning so they can change their life with it. And then we show all these amazing stories of people that have, one guy lost 90 pounds on the Miracle Morning. One girl in Africa overcame depression and became a motivational speaker. One girl overcame her chronic health issues. I mean, on and on and on. These high school students, they started a Miracle Morning Club on their campus. And so, it's just it's showing how the movement is spreading and how it's universal for every person, no matter what their age, their race, their creed, their profession, all of the above. So
if we wanted to get that movie or get the, early release of that, how would we do that?
Go to miraclemorning.com. All things Miracle Morning there, including joining the community. But you can, if you put in your name and email address, you'll get, I don't sell anything. You just get, which is a little tip on how you build a community. You'll get the Miracle Morning Fast Start Kit, which is a video training and audio training and a sneak peek of the book. And then also you subscribe to my weekly podcast called Achieve Your Goals with Hal Elrod. So, and then you'll be on the list so that as soon as the movie is released, the tickets are coming on sale probably in the next few weeks. So miraclemorning.com is a great place to plug in.
So I will be signing up for that and highly recommend everybody in the Mortgage Coach community needs to be part of that. If you're a loan officer and you're trying to bring leadership and value to the agents that you serve, the book is a great gift. I'm sure the movie is going to be a great gift, and creating awareness around it is a massive gift. So guys, jump on that. So Hal, there's 2 types of communities that we advocate a lot. If you're a real estate agent, we think you should have a community for your past clients. And I interviewed a top producer the other day who was sharing how she did that, Dan Keller and Tina Bellevue, and we were talking about how she's building a community for her clients. A lot of loan officers are building Facebook groups for real estate agents, and they're building communities for their past customers. So let's focus, we've only got about 6 minutes left. So let's focus loan officers. Could you give your advice to a loan officer that's like, hey, I want to build a community. I want to have a Facebook group. What are some of the tenets of success, tactics, strategies, and values that you have around that?
Yeah, great. It's a great question. And the principle, the guiding principle is add as much value. Actually, let me add a word in there. Selflessly add as much value as you possibly can. And I put the word selfless in there because are you doing it for your own benefit? Absolutely. But you can be selflessly selfish, right? Or selfishly selfless, meaning that for me, I always try to be selfless in that I make sure that, am I adding value because of what I'm trying to get in return? And to me, that's selfish. Or can I keep my mind focused on adding value for the purpose of what do they need, even if I get nothing out of it? And, Zig Ziglar said it best. You can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And so that for me, I had this, my purpose in life when I was, 10 plus years ago, was to selflessly add value to every person's life that I possibly can. And therefore I take myself out of the equation and I try to serve without keeping score, without trying to be too manipulative or strategic and think, well, how is this going to come back to me? I just have learned that principle in life, if you add a ton of value, you become valuable to people, right? And then it gets reciprocated in ways that you don't need to measure. You don't need to strategize. You don't need to plan step by step how that's going to work out. And for me, the best way to add value is to find out what people need. And Dave, you did that really well. Asking everybody on this call, put down what your wheelchair is, right? I think that the least effective way to add value is to try to guess what everybody wants and needs. And the best way is to say, hey, what do you want and need? Ask your clients, right? So whatever community you're leading, it doesn't matter. Remember, it's a group of human beings. And ask those human beings what they need. Create a Google form, a survey, a free survey. Ask what they need, what they would most need help with. And start with a focus group, a small group, maybe on the phone, call your 10 best clients and go, what do you need help with right now in your life? Like, what are you struggling with, right? Get them to tell you, and maybe then you can create multiple choices on that survey. And are you struggling with COVID-19? Are you struggling with financial challenges? Are you struggling with mental and emotional challenges? Don't think of it just as being in your wheelhouse, because if you pigeonhole yourself as I'm serving my past clients with mortgage information, unless they're refinancing or buying a house, they don't need your mortgage information right now. Connect with them as a human being. They go, man, that Dave Savage or that Dan Keller, right? Like if they're your clients and you're just giving them, inspiration's a great example. Everybody needs inspiration right now. They need positive thinking and positive motivation, positive things in their life. And if you become the source of the thing that makes them feel better every day, and they know you're in mortgage, you don't need to slap them over the head with it. Just add value and enrich their life. And in doing so, they're going to tell their friends, dude, you got to join this community. My mortgage guy, he is amazing. He puts out these inspirational quotes every day and these videos on how to be happier, and right? And I'm like, I'm a better person because of it. Yeah, oh yeah, and you want to refi your house? He's definitely or she's definitely the person to call. So to me, think outside the box of your profession or your clients, right? And think, what do they need? What do they want? What do they need? Give them that, and they know what you do for a living.
So I love that, guys. So I'm going to close out with another framework that I want to wrap around that. Because if you're on this call, you're probably a local referral-based mortgage professional, and we're being just berated with national news. And most of it is negative. It is designed to create anger and fear. So I want to push the mortgage coach community, wrap around positivity around everything, and then take things that are national, make them local, and make them personal. So that your framework in your community, let's just say you have a Facebook group, you're gonna, hey, this national news come out. What does that mean to my local community? If you're Josh Meadow and he specializes in doctors' loans, okay, what does this national news mean to doctors? But if you're local, like what does it mean to Austin, Texas, where you live, Austin? And then, like you said, make it personal. So, and the only way you make it personal is you've got to ask questions, and then you've got to tell stories. Hey, this family came to me, they wanted this. This is how I localized it for them. This is how I personalized it for them. And tell stories. So, guys, we are out of town or out of time. Thank you so much for your attention today. I could tell that people were super engaged. Great questions came in both our Zoom channel and our Facebook channel. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're watching the recording, you've got a question, you want to participate, put it in comments down below. Please connect with Hal, watch the movie, buy the book, spread the Miracle Morning, because it really does make you better, makes you happier and makes you more successful. Hal Elrod, man, I know you are a rock star and a rare guy to get to do calls like this. Thank you for making time for me and the mortgage coach community, brother.
Appreciate you, Dave. Thanks for all you do. Thank you,
Appreciate
everybody.
you, brother. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Give this a like. If you loved it, love it. Share it with your friends. Take care, everybody.